I mean, Riley Cooper, I mean, like, that dude deserves a statue. I mean, like,
number one on your speed dial.
Hey, I'll tell you what, like, I mean, I didn't know until a couple days after the fact. I was like, wait a minute, is he the MVP or like we got the alternative team?
No doubt about it.
And then Ty Floyd, when I sure got 17, and like stole it from him. But I was like, when has a pitcher like been a part of like 5 of the 6 wins in Omaha? I mean, what a performance!
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time.
Pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Starting a little late, boys, at the spring game, obviously, as you can see. A couple of booze cruises here to do. Let's do it. Cruise. Grand salami to the boys. Finally back on track. And I got another one coming. Don't you think I don't? And that's how we roll in Tiger Stadium.
Just watching the spring games that were on television, one thing that jumped out about your squad is your quarterback room is very talented compared to a lot of the league and a lot of the country. I wonder, is it easier to recruit that position when you have talent or when you don't have talent? Coach Kelly, we're official.
Finally,
I'm
get a
telling
chance to meet you. Thought I had to get a private audience with the Pope. There's Jordy.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show,
And
come have a good time.
Tearing up, answering the question, I thought, my God, if she gets offered this job, she's going to take it.
It's just a crazy, fun time at LSU right now. Isn't this what everybody loves?
From the boot to the east to the west coast, no matter where we at, we live. Open up the phone lines, come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show, yeah.
Let's go! Let's go!
All right.
Nice start. Big day.
Nice start.
It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time. All right, welcome into a Thursday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here from the campus of Click Here Digital on this Thursday, and brought to you every single day by RMB Builders. Check out RMB online at rmb-builders.com and always on Instagram at RMB Builders. Coming up today, we are jam-packed. In the second hour, we're going to talk to Victor Howell. Victor Howell's going to stop in, talk to New Orleans Saints at 8:30 this morning. We're also going to hear from Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. He'll be here at 8:15. As we're getting set for LSU and Florida State. Speaking of Florida State, we're going to talk to Logan Robinson as Robinson covers Florida State for SI. He will stop in here at 7:30 this morning and give us a preview of Florida State as the Seminoles and Tigers get set for the Sunday kickoff. As Robinson is a writer over at Nole Gameday, and you can find him on Twitter at Logan's Twitty on Twitter or on X. So we appreciate you starting your day here with us, being here with us. Hit that like button, share button, comment button to start the day. If you have not subscribed, make sure and subscribe to the show, as we'll be giving you daily content here with LSU and football season getting going. So a lot to get to this morning, as we will hear from is Brian Kelly's radio show tonight, right? You know, Thursday? No?
It's his own schedule, right? He kind of calls the shots. It used to be on Wednesdays or Tuesdays.
Right, it used to be on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays with Coach O, and then he moved it
First, he wasn't going to do a radio show.
That's right. Well, he doesn't do calls.
He doesn't do calls. That's what it was.
Right.
No phone
And so,
calls.
I mean, I imagine we could ask Blair.
No
He'll probably
videos.
know.
Sure.
Let's get back to football. One more thing.
That's right.
So
So
take this life vest.
that's
No.
right. Make sure, yes, it's coming up tonight, Thursday, from TJ Ribs. We will preview that with Chris Blair, obviously the host of that show, coming up here this morning at 8:15, the first one of the season, as LSU gets set for Florida State. Looking forward to diving in to Florida State here, coming up with Logan Robinson, who covers the Seminoles, as we will get a preview of this Florida State team from the front line over there. We've talked a ton, obviously, about LSU, and when you really talk about these teams and think about these teams, they really mirror one another incredibly. When you just put them side by side. I mean, you've got two quarterbacks that return with a ton of attention, both of them considered to be Heisman Trophy candidate type preseason players going in to the year, when you're talking about Jordan Travis and talking about, obviously, Jayden Daniels for LSU. They both have top 10 offensive lines in college football. They both have top 10 defensive lines in college football. They both have huge playmakers on the outside. When you're talking about Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman for Florida State, and obviously you got guys like Malik Neighbors and Aaron Anderson and Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey lining up for LSU. So they've, from a just matchup standpoint, these two teams really have a lot in common going in to Sunday. They also really, from a expectation standpoint, have very similar expectations when you talk about kind of preseason, what's thought of between both programs. I mean, it was surprising, I thought, when I saw the news come across that Verse was coming back to Florida State. I mean, really, he was potentially he was a first-round pick. He graded as a first-round player and possibly like a top 25, top 20 type pick. And you usually don't see guys like that come back at any school, not just Florida State, and it's not just the league, ACC, SEC. I mean, you rarely see a first-round pick say he's going to come back. I mean, sometimes it works out where if you're in the top 25, you can maybe work yourself into the top 10 or the top 5, which, is a huge financial jump for what is committed to those slots. But when I saw Verse come back, the first thing I really thought was, he must think that they have a chance to win a championship. Like he must think this team is close. If that's really what. Now, it doesn't all come down to that. There's got to be some individual thought behind it of trying to improve his stock and, make more money in the draft next spring. But when I saw the news that he was coming back, I thought, wow, Florida State is going to be a little bit better than I anticipated going into that first game. And when you really dive into their roster, they've done very similar things to what LSU has done in building it through the portal a bit, right? And you talk about a guy like Omar Spates. LSU needed a linebacker in the offseason. They needed to find somebody that could play in the middle of that defense. So, you go find the best linebacker in the portal when you talk about Spates, a guy that's played a ton of football. He comes out of Oregon State. He's won a lot of games. He's got a huge amount of numbers. He's an all Pac-12 type player, a leader on that team and in that program. I mean, that was enormous for LSU to pick him up. From Florida State's standpoint, they needed another playmaker on offense. They knew that they had Johnny Wilson. They knew they had guys that they could count on to make plays and to be playmakers on that offense. But they needed to go find another wide receiver. And they went and got Keon Coleman out of Michigan State. And that was the sales pitch. Come in, play, and make plays. They also stepped out and got Jaheim Bell, the big tight end out of South Carolina. So for as much success as LSU has had in the portal, picking up guys like Omar Spates and grabbing guys like Logan Diggs out of the portal and Aaron Anderson, Florida State's had just as much success in playing that game. And when you look at these two teams, it's just another commonality that they have when you stack them side by side. I mean, it really kind of is a little eerie how similar this particular matchup and team is on paper between these two programs. And I think the difference from Florida State's standpoint is that Mike Norvell finally got over the mountain last season. Like, he finally got past the days of doubt on him in Tallahassee. I'm sure there's still a section of the fan base that, still questions him. We'll ask Logan Robinson about that coming up here in about 20 minutes. But when you look at just the strides and the steps that Norvell took last season for Florida State, the most important thing he did was he got the fan base off of his back. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was able now to he settled in, and he feels like he's bought some time where, going into last year, it felt like he was coaching for his life every Saturday. And you got Brian Kelly in year 2. But on paper, these rosters and going into the game, it is very, very similar to what the two teams look like on paper going into the match.
I want to touch on the Norvell thing really quickly, because I think you're right. The guy that came in with a lot of hype with what he did at Memphis and how he was able to kind of get take that leap, take that big, I guess, that bigger job, a Power 5 job, especially when you had, I guess he's not an alum anymore because he doesn't want to be, but Deion Sanders was out there floating around where it felt like if you don't get him now, you may not get a chance to get him. Yeah. So Norvell had to battle that. That's right. The ghost of everything that kind of surrounds Florida State and their pride in being a great program. And then you go into the year, if they lose to the LSU, if they lose that LSU game in week 1, that seat gets even hotter. Mm-hmm. And you saw how hot it can get after he lost 3 straight. And it took Florida State, it felt like he was going to get fired in the middle of the year. Then he wraps off. He basically goes undefeated since then, wins 10 games. They win a bowl game, and then you get Jared Verse back. You get your quarterback back. Then you start looking at the optimism of, okay, the offense is starting to work. Everything that you wanted Mike Norvell to be, he's certainly, he got over the part of the seat being hot to the touch. It feels like he can kind of settle into the program, and it becomes Mike Norvell's program, which is especially, that's where you want to be as the head coach. Yeah.
No, and look, there is a kind of a phase of these jobs when you're talking about these high profile coaching jobs where you have to prove it, right? I mean, especially for somebody who, like Mike Norvell, was coming from Memphis when he got that job, right? I mean, that was a step up in class that there was a lot of doubters, I'm sure, in Tallahassee that felt like he's going to have to prove on whether or not he deserves to have this job. And it took him nearly 3 years to prove that he was the right guy.
Yeah, if you want to get married, it's 3 years of dating.
It was, it was a long courtship for sure. And, like I said, I don't know the temperature of the fan base, but I don't know if they're completely off of his back. But it feels as if he's now coaching with a little bit of house money rather than where it was always, Norvell's seat is blazing hot. Now, I do believe what I said yesterday. This is an enormous year for Florida State. We've talked about this as kind of being the last of the legacy, the last of the history, like the CBS 2:30 SEC games, the East-West rivals of the Southeastern Conference, the way the Pac-12 is built, the way that the Big Ten and the Big 12 are built. I mean, all of that stuff is going to change dramatically next season. Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC, UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten. Just Colorado going to the Big 12. I mean, just things are just moving. Pac-12 falling apart. I mean, it's going to be crazy. No more SEC, CBS. It's going to be SEC, ABC. I mean, college football is going to be completely different. And, oh, by the way, there's going to be a 12-team playoff starting next season. So, I mean, the whole structure, the whole build, everything about the game is really about to go through, a real makeover, a real change Now, I do believe once you get to Saturdays and once you kick it off, you'll still have the passion, you'll still have the love, you'll still have the fandom, you'll still have all of what comes with college football. But just the business of it, the outside, the structure of it's about to be blown up and changed dramatically. And for Florida State, like we said yesterday, I mean, this is the best team that Mike Norvell has ever coached.
Yeah. No matter where he's been.
This is the best roster that they've had probably since they won the national championship in 2013. It is a season for Florida State that is going to be measured by what happens on the field. What's the wins and losses? What do you play for? Because this team is playing in a very weak conference outside of Clemson, and their schedule doesn't give them many opportunities to get respect. They have a real big chance coming up this Sunday, but if they falter there, if they lose week 4 at Clemson, if they stumble down the stretch against teams like Miami and Florida, then this whole team program is going to be considered fraudulent, and Mike Norvell is going to be right back on the hot seat.
Exactly. Because he can turn on you that quickly.
Absolutely, and it will, because Florida State is a program that is looking to jump out of the ACC. They want to get into a league like the Southeastern Conference or the Big Ten that is obviously putting a huge premium on football. They want to be taken serious. They believe that they're one of the big players in college football. And the next 16 months for them, 12 months for them, is going to be enormous in the legacy and the history of the program. And what they do this season could have a big effect on that. You know, I mean, how serious are you going to be taken? Because with this team, there's going to be high expectation to win.
And you talk about the SEC. I don't really know that there's an avenue for Florida State to get in there, but if you make a case for yourself and make a college football playoff, maybe that makes you buyout worthy, because that's their biggest hiccup, right? Is you can't afford the contract to get out the ACC that the deal signed. That's why their buyouts are so high to be able to get into a new conference. And the SEC feels pretty like they want to hold pretty steady with what they have right now, with the way that the conference is set up. Like, we're good. Yeah. We don't need anybody else, really. Like, y'all can go. There's chaos all around everybody else. We don't really need to bring any of that in-house. Like, why do we go in and join? You know, we don't need to be a part of NATO. We can let them fight all around us, and we'll stay here at the home base and let y'all pick for scraps. But if Florida State has another 10-win year, makes the Final Four, maybe wins a national championship, who knows? They have the ACC schedule to be able to get that avenue is direct. The path to the playoff is there, and there's no reason that they shouldn't look at it. You have a big game with LSU. If you scratch that off the list, you don't look down the schedule again until Clemson, and then after that, who would you say is the real competition aside from a rivalry game with Miami? You feel pretty good about your schedule.
If you're Florida State?
If you're Florida State.
Sure.
Yeah, like you have to win.
Yeah.
You have to win. And this game has no bearing on if they win their conference or not.
Right.
But if you're a one-loss team in the ACC, the odds are you're probably getting into the playoff. And then that's when the SEC might look at you and go, hell, if that's what they're doing at Florida State, why wouldn't we take them? Florida's down, and depending on how their year goes, you recapture a market. There's an avenue where they would be in the SEC, and if you do that, you have to add another. You probably go scoop up Clemson. It could shift. There's a world where it shifts like that.
No, I agree. No, I think that, Florida State, like I said, this is a huge year for them.
Yes, and this is the year that they kind of have to do it, right? I mean, I know it's the age of the transfer portal, but you have Jordan Travis back on their senior year after a game where he threw for over 400 yards. Seems like the offense is moving pretty good. Like, the same thing for LSU, where you kind of put all of your chips into the Jayden Daniels experience this year, where you could have pivoted, you didn't. And they're almost mirror images of each other in the way that they play.
Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Katie's Restaurant down in New Orleans over on Iberville Street in Mid-City. Katie'sinmidcity.com. Great menu selection over at Katie's. They got St. Louis-style pizza. They got cold beer. Great service over at Katie's. Katie'sinmidcity.com is where you can find them online. Katie'sinmidcity.com. Go check them out on Iberville Street. Tell Scott Craig and the crew that we sent you down there. Remember, they have embraced the Sunday schedule with the NFL as they are open now 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. on Sundays, and they had 6 new televisions installed over at Katie's, so you can't miss a play pre-post game down there for Saints game if you want to over at Katie's. Check them out online, katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. So looking forward to talking to our guy Logan Robinson coming up here about Florida State and just what this season does mean ultimately for Mike Norvell and what the Florida State future looks like in the ACC. We'll talk all about that with Robinson coming up here at in about 10 minutes. We're also going to talk to Chris Blair as Blair will be here talking LSU Florida State, getting prepared here for game 1 as LSU will be taking on Florida State on Sunday. Now tonight, there is a slate of college football. Today is it. It starts today. College football is here.
It moved.
Obviously, the game of the week is going to be LSU and FSU. That's going to be the one that everybody, I think, around the country is paying to. There are some good games, though. And specifically tonight, this is a big spot for Billy Napier in Florida as they're traveling to Utah here today to take on the Utes. It'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. This number, the betting line, has bounced around a little bit and is now 6.5 Utah as its senior quarterback, Cam Rising, is out recovering from a torn ACL, which he suffered in the Rose Bowl last season. But look, the Utes, they're still built championship level. They're still a pretty good team for Utah. And then you're talking about Florida. The Grand Mertz era starts tonight.
Oh, get excited.
With Billy Napier. Wisconsin came out and said they misused Mertz.
Mm-hmm.
So they put a little interest, a little intrigue around the signal caller for the Gators. But I think this is going to be a pretty good game. I don't think necessarily that this is going to be – if I'm betting, I'm taking Florida.
Really?
I'm taking Florida plus the 6.5. I mean, I don't like them to win the game. But or it started at 6.5.
It's at 4.5 right now.
It started at 6.5. I would take at 4.5.
I wish it was under that 3. That 3.
I still would probably play Florida at 4.5.
Really? What? I don't know much about Graham Mertz. I knew he's a 5-star at Wisconsin and had at least a great freshman year, or at least a great front end of the freshman year. Then he just kind of faded away because that was all the talk about Wisconsin was they were always a quarterback away. You saw it happen when they got Russell Wilson, and it felt like he was going to be the heir apparent, savior, right? And he came in, he got the nod as a freshman, and then he just faded away. The only thing that I'm hanging my hat on with this Florida team is what happened in the spring game, which I know was a long time ago, but I watched it. And it was bad. They couldn't get plays off in time. They were huddling, rehuddling.
Miles stuff.
I don't want to poop on Billy Napier because obviously he had something right at UL, and that didn't seem like that was the problem, right? He needed to take the bigger leap to go, and he was a great recruiter, which I still think he brought to Florida. But if it's going to be disorganized like that, and you don't have a quarterback you trust, you're really starting at 0 and not getting very close to 1. Utah. The only thing that hangs me on that is Cam Rising not playing, and they said that they're going to play multiple people at quarterback, which you hate to hear that too, but it's in Utah, not Provo. I think that's where
BYU.
That's where BYU plays. I don't know where Utah is. I know where it is on the map. I don't know where they play their home games, but I know
Salt Lake City.
I know it's raucous and it's small.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's in their stadium.
And
they
pack.
on campus.
Yeah, it's a home and home. They pack that thing out, and it's raucous up there. That's first of all, I'm going to under 44.5, just because I don't really know what I'm getting from either quarterbacks. And Utah has always had a pretty stout defense. You saw what they've done to USC the past 2 years.
The Utah backup quarterback is pretty good.
All right, that's all I needed to hear.
Bryson Barnes, he can score. He can score.
He
Watch your
can
number there. Watch your under.
Yeah,
Okay.
he can sling that thing. Coach.
And then the game, like we've said, the undercard to the weekend is South Carolina and North Carolina. Look, this is the year of the quarterback in college football. This is going to be a fantastic draft class of quarterbacks, including Jayden Daniels and Jordan Travis, the two that will be on display Sunday night over in Orlando, where LSU will obviously have a lot of interest there. But this game in particular, the undercard, South Carolina versus North Carolina, is going to be it's going to be a headliner from a quarterback standpoint. First off, Drake May is I think he's probably the second best prospect in college football going into the year. Caleb Williams, obviously out at USC right now, is the projected number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And barring anything happening like, catastrophic or just, completely going off the rails, he seems like he is like an Andrew Luck. He seems like a Cam Newton, somebody that you're just like, okay, look, that's the number 1 pick. Mm-hmm. That's who is going first. After that, Drake May is really routinely considered to be the guy. I mean, anytime you hear these draft analysts, anytime you hear anybody talking about the college football prospects, Drake May is usually second on the list. And if you've ever seen him throw, he has this very easy throwing style. I mean, he makes throwing the football look very easy. Aaron Rodgers looks throwing, Aaron Rodgers
that's going to be my comp.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers makes the ball. He just makes it look very easy to throw a football the way he kind of just spins around when he throws. I mean,
he's off balance, but he's on balance.
Exactly. Drake May has this same type of build and arm strength where he's just able to whip it. You know what I mean? He's able to just.
It looks easy.
He very, very much makes it look easy. So he's fun to watch. And then, Spencer Rattler. There's been a ton of hype around Rattler. I mean, obviously he had the Netflix series when he was in high school, and he was easy to hate, I thought, coming out of high school. He was like the number 1 recruit. He was a guy that really embraced that. He was on a documentary that, the country was able to have access to. He was brash. He was obviously, he was full of 18-year-old machismo from being in that spotlight, right? I mean, I don't know how many of us could handle that type of stuff. But then he gets to Oklahoma, and Caleb Williams shows up, and Caleb Williams dethrones him on a big spot in a big game,
the shootout,
and comes in and leads Oklahoma back. And from there, you just never hear from Rattler again at Oklahoma. He transfers to South Carolina, where Shane Beamer really has the juice, the feeling around the program heading in the right direction. And Rattler, for the most part, it was some growing pains and tough to catch on. But late in the year last year, he started to really show why he had all that attention and why he had all of that notoriety. I mean, he's got some talent that is pretty special. The way he can throw it, he's an athletic guy. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick, but from a college football quarterbacking standpoint, he's a guy that you got to defend. You got to account for. You have to consider him a threat going into the game. And this matchup of South Carolina, North Carolina, where you've got May and Rattler, I think is going to be a really cool game to kind of lead into LSU and Florida State coming up this weekend as well. So this one's North Carolina favored by 2.5. Big number on this one is obviously they love the quarterback play and think the potential of offense here is going to be high, as the number sits at 64.5 on Saturday. This will be a Saturday game. This is obviously going to be the best game of Saturday. I mean, Virginia, Tennessee will be a nice one. Just you'll get a chance to see Tennessee and Joe Milton. But I think South Carolina and North Carolina, without question, is the best game of the day on Saturday, and really kind of your undercard and leading into Florida State and LSU, which is obviously the heavyweight buildup of the weekend.
You're not feeling TCU, Colorado?
Oh, that's going to get some eyeballs.
No, I think you'll get a lot of people watching that game. But from a matchup standpoint, TCU should really beat the hell out of Colorado, right?
Yeah. Tom Luganville said he thinks that Colorado has probably one of the worst rosters in college football because of the line of scrimmages. They don't have
skill.
Well, they don't have any depth.
Yeah, he said they probably have 2 first-round picks at corner. The quarterback's good. They have some good receivers, but it's just not the same as everybody else in college football.
Right.
I mean, he basically brought over a D2 team.
How many is on his roster?
I think he has.
Does he have 85?
He might be at his 85.
Does he? Okay, we're going to talk to Logan Robinson coming up here. Remember, We are brought to you by our friends over at Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. Get in touch with Barker Brothers, 225-776-2431. No social media, no website for Barker Brothers. That's just a direct phone line into the owner's pocket. Jude Barker over there. Mention the show, save 15%. They got a couple of trucks working in East Baton Rouge every single day. Get in touch with Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works, 225-776-2431. All right, we've been talking LSU, Florida State, and been focusing on LSU for a lot of the build-up here. Been looking forward to jumping over to the other side, to Tallahassee, and getting a lead-in and some insight on Florida State. We're going to do that with our guy, Logan Robinson, who is the founder and owner of Nole's Gameday, at Nole Gameday. Is where you can find him on Twitter. You can find him on Twitter at Logan's Twitty, as he joins us now here leading into this LSU Florida State matchup coming up on Sunday night. Logan, good morning. Thank you for the time, man.
Good morning. Appreciate the invite. Looking forward to this upcoming weekend, Florida State, LSU. It's going to be a fun one in Orlando.
First off, man, I hope everybody is safe that is dealing with the storm. Obviously, you look like all is good, but how did everybody do over there?
Everything good. So I'm actually in St. Pete, been traveling up and back and to Tallahassee quite a bit. But St. Pete just had to worry about the storm surge and everything. And Tallahassee, my family's all up there, and they made it out just fine. So luckily that cone didn't get too close to Tallahassee because too many pine trees, oak trees. It's just ridiculous how much of the power outage it can cause. So luckily everybody's pretty safe, and now all can be focused towards this weekend. Like every FSU fan wants to get down to Orlando as soon as possible. Obviously
a huge build-up over here in Baton Rouge for the game, as there is over there in that part of the country leading into this one on Sunday night. When I look at these two teams, Logan, when I look at LSU and Florida State side by side, it's kind of eerie how similar they are. When you look at this matchup, what do you see going into this weekend?
There it is. We just recorded our show last night previewing this game, and it's crazy the amount of athletes and talent from both sides of the ball that we're going to be seeing on Sunday evening. I mean, you're looking at two Heisman candidates. You've got Jordan Travis and also Jayden Daniels. But then on the other side, you've got Perkins, you've got Verse on defensively for both Florida State and LSU. You've got talent at wide receiver. You've got some defensive backs that need to create some answers. And, there's a lot of things, too, looking at the offensive line, defensive line, and the trenches. I know LSU going to feel a little bit more comfortable going into this game than last year. But then you look on the other side of Florida State's defensive line, you're bringing in some talent. You brought in Western Michigan defensive tackle Braden Fisk, who will make his debut and Camping World Stadium. So there's a lot of similarities between both squads in this upcoming game. And, Mike Norvell and Brian Kelly once again going at it to begin their season. So, and a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of expectations, and Florida State really hasn't had that in a while. LSU being a lot closer to that. So, it's just going to depend on who can take on the most pressure. But both teams expected to, make it to their conference championships and then potentially get a college football playoff berth. So there's so many good storylines to this. But yes, too many similarities, and that just is going to set us up for what should be a fun weekend.
It felt like this LSU game got the heat off of Norvell's back last year locally. Is that the case, and what is the feeling of him going into this season?
That was sort of the case, yeah. That was his biggest win by far, and his tenure at Florida State, something that he needed. I think, too, also boosted recruiting. During that game, they had a lot of targets in attendance. Just for them to be there and see that Florida State can compete to the caliber of a talent like LSU has. Brian Kelly, a phenomenal college football coach, and to go down on the road, too, I think that was something really important that really stood out to FSU fans while they're also watching on television, that Florida State has kind of taken that next step, matured, has created a lot of accountability in that locker room, something Mike Norvell had to work on immediately once getting into Tallahassee. He had to work a lot in that locker room and building leaders, and now they've got a team that has been able to kind of be player-led rather than coach-led, and that's something that Mike Norvell and his staff has been wanting to do. And it also helps a ton whenever you're able to keep a lot of your assistants on the same team for a couple of years. It kind of builds continuity that was much needed. So that one was huge. It was big, and still though there's a few question marks just for Mike. You got to be able to compete and you got to beat these ranked teams. So not all is just finished for Mike. There's a lot of things that he still needs to accomplish, but a lot of high expectations for a coach that is going into his 4th season, and he knows how big Florida State is as a football program and brand, and showing on the recruiting trail. But you still got to get things done on the field, and we'll see if they can answer a lot of that pressure this upcoming season.
One of the things that we've heard being outside of the market over there, Logan, is that it's been difficult for Florida State to get back to the table and compete because of the commitment or the non-commitment of NIL, facilities, all of the things that it takes to really compete with the big players of college football: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Michigan, and the bunch. Where is that right now with Florida State?
Ooh, if we were talking about this a year ago, I wouldn't have a whole ton much to say. Looking at a few NILs, Florida State introduced Rising Spear pretty early on, and that was specifically directed towards a few of the football program, but really widespread across other sports and the program, including women's, who have done a fantastic job at the university in the last almost decade, I would say. And now we saw a shift here, though, with the Battles End that was introduced from Ingram Smith, who's leading that charge, and it was specifically towards keeping kind of retention on football players. As we know, Jordan Travis is coming back. We've got Johnny Wilson. Florida State's going to have Trey Benson, Fabian Lovett. Maybe the biggest one here, Jared Verse, who announced last that he would be returning for the 2023 season. The Battles End is something that has kind of boosted big time in Florida State's favor, and the backing of kind of some anonymous donors that don't make me want to put their names out there too much. They kind of want to just do things on the back end, and it's going and it's helping a ton. And it's just off of regular brand deals and helping out a lot of these players get things done and having their agents help them and guide them through the process. It's something Florida State players needed, and we've seen that process accelerate and accelerate and accelerate. And just to see a lot of these guys coming back, and not even your superstar players. You've got some sophomores, you've got some redshirt freshmen too that are signing these deals with the Battles End. And so, like I said, a year ago, it was kind of bare bones. There wasn't much to work with. But right now, Florida State now kind of just depending on rankings. I don't know NIL rankings, but they're doing a good job, and I think they're a top 10 team in the country. And now with also Florida's law, Florida State as coaches can also kind of be hands-on a little bit, can also advertise their NIL, the NIL organizations, and help that. So it goes in their favor quite a bit.
When I look at this game, Logan, I think it comes down from LSU's standpoint. Are they going to be able to guard Florida State on the outside? LSU had to dip into the transfer portal and really grab a bunch of new faces to play cornerback this year. They'll have some first-year guys at LSU playing out there, guarding guys like Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. What is the key to this game from Florida State standpoint, in your opinion, or is there something that you look at in this matchup that you worry that Florida State may have a difficult time doing?
Well, going back to last year specifically, looking at Jordan Travis and also Jayden Daniels too, but specifically J-Trav, we didn't see him as a complete passer. That was a question mark going into that season for FSU. Could he take that next stride? Also a new quarterbacks coach with Tony Tokars. Kenny Dillingham now off doing his thing with Arizona State, but was coaching over there with Jordan Travis and developing him. He steps off and also was a right-hand man to Mike Norvell. So you kind of had to find an answer there for Jordan Travis, who obviously still needed to be developed and continuing to build his passing game, which was, something that he was maybe lacking or was a concern for people across the country. But he was able to make that next step, and we saw that at the LSU game specifically, connecting quite a bit with Ontario Wilson, who needs to be noted. He's not on the roster. He's over there with the LA Chargers right now. Ontario Wilson is. So Florida State's got to find an answer for who can take that step deep for the Seminoles. They brought in Keon Coleman, as we know, from Michigan State, wide receiver transfer who has had an excellent fall camp. I think it really is going to come down to how much chemistry has Jordan Travis built with his wide receiver set, as we know, too. Also, Johnny Wilson being a projected big-time impact player for Florida State this upcoming year, also making returns. And then also you brought in Jaheim Bell, South Carolina transfer tight end, which over there in South Carolina, they could not figure out a way to utilize him. Mike Norvell pressed that quite a bit during his recruitment, that we're going to make sure we put you in the right spot as a playmaker. And there's a reason why Bell didn't take too long in picking Florida State and to play for this offense and Jordan Travis. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting scenario for LSU in that defense and that secondary that's been looking for some answers through camp, and see who's going to have to step up. But it's also interesting, too. Florida State had a week 0 game last year. This year, you start off week 1. There's no warm-up, tune-up game. You're going right at it against a really talented LSU front seven. So it's not going to be any easy task for Mike Norvell and Jordan Travis.
Yeah, that's a good point. We weren't talking a lot about that. Yeah, we talked a lot about it last year in the lead-up that there was a game beforehand, but now this year it's not been as much of a storyline, as both of these teams will be meeting each other for the first time here in the regular season. How is Florida State feeling at linebacker going into this matchup? It seems like they're really good defensively, but I haven't heard much about the second level of the defense. Where are they at that point?
So you're bringing back all of your starters from last year, and I think that played a big part also in NIL and mentioning the battles in there, keeping retention. And, there's a lot of snaps between all these guys, with DJ Lundy, who has, from what we heard from defensive coordinator Adam Fuller, had the most improvement as a linebacker on the roster, and he's been with the program, which feels like 3 to 4 years, which is actually that. But then you got Kalen DeLoach, who is your best, probably east to west guy, can move him in coverage, probably one of your best tacklers there. And you've got Tatum Bethune, former UCF transfer from last year. He's in 2 years now into this system. And then you've got some youngsters that you're going to have to rely on. But if guys can stay healthy and everything throughout this game, they fine. But the experience there that Randy Shannon has in his linebacker unit is going to be big. And, you looking back at last year, LSU made a run there at the very end of the game, and there was some question marks of that linebacker room and making sure you're keeping an eye on Jayden Daniels and what he could do with his legs. And, the biggest thing I'm kind of watching out for, if Jayden Daniels takes that next step as a passer like we saw with Jordan Travis last year, this is going to be a whole different game than what we saw in 2022.
Yeah. Logan, real quick, one for you on the way out. The future of Florida State, it feels as if they're very unsettled in the ACC. It feels as if they want to be a part of a conference like the SEC or the Big Ten that really respects football and puts a premium on it. Where's the position of Florida State in the ACC, and what's the future feel like?
It definitely feels different. It definitely doesn't feel like Florida State wants to be in their current conference. I thought, too, during the Board of Trustees meeting that went public, and they did that on purpose. I think they had over 1,000 people watching on YouTube, everybody tuning in. You got your President McCullough, saying, if things don't change revenue share-wise, then we've got to look into getting out. And, Florida State has been looking to get out for multiple years now. But with Michael Alford, Florida State's athletic director, coming in and really putting in a whole ton of work. He actually built a team on the side to look into this, to get out of this GOR that Florida State is stuck in within the ACC. I'm looking at Clemson too. And, Florida State just can't do this solo dolo, though. They're going to have Clemson to ride with them, and also North Carolina. North Carolina kind of just doesn't feel like they want to go all in and dip out. And other schools in the ACC just aren't big enough to that magnitude of where they can bring in a big media rights deal, and they can't really jump ship with them. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, they have that. They have that stage where they can make that step, but Florida State kind of felt solo there. And Florida State fans, as a fan base, they would love to just take whoever is going to bring the most money, but geographically, they would like to go into the SEC. And Florida State, as a fan base, they would also say that they aren't. A couple of years ago, weren't ready for the SEC, and I think too, as a program, they'd say the same. But now They believe a ton in Mike Norvell. You could listen to that Board of Trustees meeting. All of those trustees talking highly of what they think the program is and where it's at and where it could be under Mike, and continuing to build his extension within the program and keep the staff there. So there's a lot of kind of antsiness to try to move on and get out of the ACC, but it's not happening anytime soon. I'd say probably 2-3 years could be the expectation where Florida State is no longer in the ACC. Just too many question marks right now in this conference, and Florida State is bringing too many views as a team, as a program, as a brand onto ESPN and all these other media networks, and they're just not getting the money that they probably do deserve.
Logan, looking forward to Sunday, man. Glad to hear you guys made it safe through the storm, and we'll see you what should be a great college football matchup here in Week 1 between Florida State and LSU. Thanks for the insight.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all. Have a great rest of y'all's week.
Logan, real quick, what's no doubt that cat has a Florida State football player's name?
No, it's literally actually from a Game of Thrones character.
Oh, I wanted to.
She's always in here. Yeah, she steals the show for me, man. She's always got to be on here and get on camera, so I'm glad she held it down for me.
Absolutely. Watching your back.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yep, exactly. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
There he is, man. Read his work over at SI. Logan Robinson. He is a part of, he is on Twitter at Logan's Twitty is where you can find him on Twitter. And that was good, man. That was good insight from Logan Robinson, who is he founded Nole Gameday on Twitter as well. So you can check out what's going on with Florida State there as he gives really good sight from the other side, right, going into the matchup on Sunday between LSU and Florida State. That conversation brought to you by our friends over at Ochsner. Remember, over at Ochsner, whether you're a pediatric patient, a high school athlete, member of the Saints, the Pelicans, a weekend warrior, or even a senior citizen, they all of us turn to Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute for care. They've been serving Louisiana and Mississippi residents and beyond. They're ready to help you move past whatever sports injury you face and get you back on the field. Remember, high school football going tonight, couple of Thursday night games. If you are injured, if you need some attention from a professional over at Ochsner, get over and see them at the Grove facility at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. 8 a.m. Saturday morning. They're open until 10:30 on Saturday morning for all your injuries. If you want to meet with a professional, see somebody up close, you can. 225-761-5895 is a 24-hour sports number, sports injury number that you can get in touch with anybody at any time to get some consultation. 225-761-5895, Ochsner.org/sportsmedicine to learn more. We're watching the last of this Florida State LSU game last season.
Talking about those linebackers, see when Jayden was scrambling, they didn't have nobody.
Randy Shannon, what a slut. Goes from the head coach of Miami to the
and he's been everywhere.
Yes,
he's been everywhere.
Trade secrets. There's nothing sacred.
No.
Wait, he's a defensive coordinator for Florida State. Oh, God. Talking about Randy Shannon from like the early Miami, like
absolutely.
2008.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he play there?
I think so. Yeah, he's a Miami guy.
Oh, well, not
Trader.
Florida State guy now. But that's a good get for them. I mean, he's a good coordinator, that's for sure. I feel like his name. That's the reason his name popped up a ton. But I didn't know he was the defensive coordinator. Oh no, co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. That's why I got emphasis on the linebackers. Returning all three.
This is weird with Deion Sanders in Florida State.
Not an alum.
What happened?
I think he's still spurned. He didn't get the job. I mean, he obviously wanted to be there, and so sometimes when it's still a fresh wound, hasn't scarred over yet.
This is coming from our friend over Logan Robinson over at Nole Gameday. Deion Sanders in Colorado preparing for TCU in their Week 1 matchup. A reporter asked Sanders a question about the Florida State and Miami rivalry. And the reporter said, "And you're a Nole, my friend," the reporter said before Sanders interrupted him. Sanders chimed in and asked where he graduated from, which he graduated from Talladega College in 2020. Talladega College is a HBCU college in Alabama. And Sanders said, "I graduated from an HBCU. I thought it was where you were from, graduated, isn't it? Why didn't you keep calling me from that same school where I graduated from? I'm an HBCU grad." And I mean, like, the guy's like looking at him like, wait, what? He's like, I mean,
You are Florida State.
You are, yeah, right. Like, I mean, you're iconic to Florida State, man. I mean, like that's one of like the brand starts of Florida State football.
You hate to make assumptions at a press conference, but I feel you're pretty safe in that regard to assume that Deion would claim Florida State.
It was a weird interaction. We should have asked Logan about that on the way out.
But that's what it has to be, right? Is that he never got a fair shake at Florida State to be able to, I guess, be the coach there. So turncoat.
I guess. I mean, it's always been a relationship that always seemed to have played.
Right.
Right. Like it always kind of was something that made sense. But it was a weird interaction between Deion Sanders.
I mean, he had a weird press conference in general where he's talking about, I don't care about culture, I care about good players. So I don't know if he's nervous, if he's lashing out that the season's here.
I think the wheels are starting to spin on Deion.
Yeah, it's real.
Not like that, but you know,
it's just this isn't Jackson State.
Yeah,
it's
getting real,
right? Like I mean,
nobody's
TCU
better.
TCU was in the Natty last year.
Yeah, and he first game up.
Right.
And talking season's easy for Deion.
Yeah,
it's the playing season where he has, like you said. He's got some flash, but I don't think he has much substance at that program yet. I think they brought in 63 transfers, if I'm reading this correctly.
63 transfers.
They have 83 new players on their team.
83 new players.
53 incoming transfers.
So
2 dozen at the end of spring practice.
Yeah, essentially.
That's what they were talking. That's where the culture thing came up. Like, that's all I heard about Colorado's culture, CU culture. Like the Colorado University, I guess. He's like, I don't care about culture. I care about good players. But these are that he denies Florida State being his, I guess, alma mater. Just a lot of things going on with Deion that aren't really about football.
Right.
Or at least his football team.
Man.
Heady play.
Mason Taylor. Heady guy.
It is, man. Mason Taylor, a young Mason Taylor.
Game
That'll be
baby
a great highlight to look back on.
That's the start of his DVD.
Absolutely. How many catches did he have in this game?
I think he had like 4.
I mean, he had a big day.
Kick and play, man.
How do they score right here?
Jeray Jenkins back in the end zone.
Yeah,
that's right.
Cutting across the
Little
back
slant.
underneath the goalpost.
Jeray Jenkins' second touchdown of the night.
Yeah, he's our best receiver that day. Look at Jeray in the
Another
uni.
timeout.
Just the other one. So always the forgotten man for no reason. So many
Jeray
big
Jenkins.
plays from Jeray. Should have been able to, I don't want to say give you a win here, but put you in position to win a football game, wins the A&M game. There's some highlights for old Jeray that people
Jeray
forget.
does have some.
I saw John Trey Kirkland was signed to the practice squad
Yeah.
of the New Orleans Saints. Did Jeray make a team? I saw where Mekhi Gardner was cut by the Philadelphia Eagles and thinking going into this matchup how much LSU could be using him.
Eagles are loaded, though.
They are loaded.
Yeah, Eli Ricks made the team.
But I'm saying, in the sense of...
He could have come back.
Oh, gosh. I mean, Mekhi Gardner is one of those guys that you want coming back. I mean, like that's one of the things you look at in this game, right? Where, I mean, Jared Verse comes back and, a guy that's a potential first-round pick, top 20 selection, and, LSU loses a guy like Gardner, where I'm not saying that it's a hit on the culture or it says anything about the program. It's just those are the, kind of stories when you look at teams that make a difference, right? Like that's the 1 or 2 player type difference. And obviously Verse is, maybe the best player on Florida State's team, but Gardner, who was, ideally a role guy, but served a hell of a need for LSU and what he did. Those are the types of decisions that sometimes you look back on and we don't highlight, we don't really, pounce on, but it affects. It has a huge cause and effect on the season.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. The Mekhi Gardner thing obviously would have been great to have him back. But then we haven't even focused on the no week 0 thing. I thought that was a salient point because it was it felt like an advantage a little bit in Florida State's way. Like it certainly, maybe it hampered LSU more with what you saw with like the eye-popping mistakes and you didn't really see until the end of the game Florida State make the one obviously on the goal line. But when you look at LSU, I don't think we're talking about it because it doesn't feel like they need it. It doesn't feel like LSU needs a week 0 game this year.
Nah.
Because last year there were so many questions. New coach, new quarterback.
Last year
Only reason why you needed one is so you could send
Mason
Smith.
That would have been great. But I'm talking about as far as like the production that's returning, what you saw from the team last year and everybody that's coming back. You don't feel that there's a big emphasis on, well, you have to see them play first. That's what it was last year. It's like, what is this team going to look like? And you're opening up against Florida State on national television. He ain't coached a game for LSU yet. He ain't played a game for LSU yet.
I've seen him play. I've seen him fight.
I've seen him love. I've seen him beats and get beats.
Take it all.
Take it all.
Welcome to football season.
It's here.
All right, hour 2, we're going to talk to Chris Blair. We're also going to talk to Victor Howell. We'll talk to Howell about the 53-man roster. We mentioned Jalen Smith in the news yesterday concerning or around Smith, that Smith was waived by the New Orleans Saints. Well, yesterday we saw him brought back by the Saints, as it was the scenario that we were talking about. Ross Jackson was breaking down on his Locked On Saints podcast, where you keep a guy like Landon Young, offensive lineman Traquan Smith, wide receiver. You put them on the final 53 after the cut down from 90, which puts them on the roster. Now you can shift them to the IR and opening up a spot like Jalen Smith. I think that Jalen Smith plays big-time meaningful snaps for the Saints very early this season or at some point. That was, I think, a great signing by Saints front office and Dennis Allen of being able to find him, bring him in. I think at some point he's going to pay off for New Orleans. So we will talk to Victor Howell about some of the moves that the Saints have made here over the last couple of days here to get down to the 53-man roster, including going with Blake Grupe over Will Lutz at place kicker. A lot of people around the league still reacting to that choice by New Orleans. So lots to get to as we will come back here in the second hour live from our Click Here digital campus over in Baton Rouge. We're located in between Airline and Drusilla. We're online at clickheredigital.com, and we specialize in managing your digital leads, your digital stack, whatever you may need from a digital marketing agency standpoint, whether it's Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram, social media ads, or just bringing you more traffic into your business, whether it's foot traffic, you need the phone to ring, you need more clicks on your website. Let Click Here Digital handle all of that for you. I am a direct contact. You can email me, Jordy@clickhere.com, Jordy@clickheredigital.com, Jordy@clickheredigital.com, and all of it's online at clickheredigital.com. Hour 2 next here of the Jordy Culotta Show, built by R&B Builders. If you're in the market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about one buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge. Is it time to wash your house or business? Call the pros at Hydro Wash today. Get them out with their low-pressure, soft-washing cleaning approach. From commercial buildings, rooftops, and residentials, Hydro Wash is ready to get your place shining. Find them on Facebook or call Curtis at 225-933-7068. Take it from me, Hydro Wash came by and made my house look like new. What was best was the professionalism. They picked up everything, made the clean, and then put everything back to where it belonged. Get in touch with Curtis today. Call him at 225-933-7068 or find Hydro Wash on Facebook.
What's up?
What's happening?
Chilling with a couple of cool guys. You?
Chilling and watching some tube. Hold on.
Did you do it?
Hold on. Did you do it?
Roof's up.
Hold on.
Roof's up?
Roof's up!
Roof's up!
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
You can't put the cart before the horse. That'd be like, will you marry me?
Do I know you?
Never sign a contract with a roofer before he gets on your roof. Call Go Roof instead. We offer a free, no-obligation inspection. A beautiful roof every shingle time. Bobby, goes in the front.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Belmont Stakes Race Training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Kentucky Derby Training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
All right, welcome back here to a Thursday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. As always, we are built by our friends over at RMB Builders. Our phone line's brought to you every single day by our friends over at Southern Regional Medical Center. It's Charlie Harvey and Jason Ramazan, BJ and the crew over there. Real doctors, real solutions. You can find them online, Southern Regional Medical Center. We appreciate their support every single day. Speaking of the phone line, we had Logan Robinson on in the first hour. Logan was talking about Florida State, was giving us some insight there on the Seminoles, as Robinson is over in Orlando. He founded Nole Gameday, and you can find him on Twitter at Logan's Twitty. Good insight from Logan on the Seminoles and the matchup. We appreciate him stopping by here on this Thursday. If you missed it, you can always check it out on demand. You can go back and listen to the show. Make sure and hit that like, share, comment. If you hadn't subscribe to the podcast, as we appreciate you as always being here with us. Second hour, we got some more coming at you. Chris Blair is going to be in studio with us. Chris, of course, with us every Thursday as the voice of the Tigers. Will get his insight tonight. The debut of Brian Kelly and his radio show, as they'll be live at TJ Ribs. We'll ask Blair what to expect here coming up with another season of Coach Kelly and his radio show, and obviously the trip over to Orlando here in week 1 to watch the Tigers and have the call for you on the radio network for LSU and Florida State. We'll get a preview from him. And then Victor Howell is going to be here. Victor Howell, of course, the longtime media member here in our market, has been doing some great work with Cox Sports Television over the last couple of years, doing some Saints insight and some LSU insight. And we'll talk to him about mainly the New Orleans Saints, about where they kind of stack up after cutting and making some of the moves that they did earlier this week. So when we talk about this LSU Florida State preview and matchup, man, we've talked about it nearly from every single angle. We've talked about it a lot. And going into this matchup, the more that we get close to Sunday, the closer we get to Sunday, the more, in my opinion, the game is really going to come down to whether or not LSU is going to be able to guard Florida State, right? And Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson are guys that, you know, from a game-breaking standpoint. We mentioned the similarities between LSU and Florida State. You're talking about two of the top quarterbacks in college football. You're talking about two of the top offensive lines in college football. You're talking about two of the top defensive lines in college football. And you're talking about two top 10, top 5, maybe even top 3 receiving cores in the sport. I mean, I would put Ohio State obviously up there with guys like Marvin Harrison and what they're doing. You know, it's not going to take you long to get to LSU with all the playmakers that they have. And then Florida State's another group from a wide receiver standpoint and playmaking standpoint that, you know, they got guys that can change the scoreboard at any point just like LSU does. And, you know, I mean, another similarity there. And when it comes down to, you know, the defensive backfield, that's the part through fall camp that's been, you know, the point that has drawn the most questions for LSU. And obviously so. There's the most new faces, right? When you're talking about cornerback, guys like Zy Alexander, even a guy like Ashton Stamps, who's a true freshman. You've seen a ton of him playing down in New Orleans in high school, but, you know, this is obviously a huge step up for him and making his LSU debut potentially coming up on Sunday night. You got guys like Denver Harris, who have been running with the 3 deep, you know, the third team in fall camp. Deuce Chestnut, who transferred in from Syracuse. Jeremiah Hughes, who's another early enrollee, true freshman, who's a guy that, you know, I mean, he's a first-year player. If he's playing on Sunday's stage, that's going to be a hell of a platform for him. Sage Ryan is a guy that, you know, is a really good athlete who has played multiple positions, but now it looks like he's going to get his shot at cornerback. So just Javion Taviano, who we haven't talked a lot about in camp. We talked a ton about him in spring and in the offseason, but haven't seen Taviano's name really pop here in fall camp. And even guys like on the back end, Andre Sam, who's going to play a significant role for LSU at the safety spot coming up on Sunday. So, you know, I mean, that's the part for me that when this game really kind of comes down to the nuts and bolts of it, when it comes down to the smaller portions of the decisions and the one play effect on this game, is LSU going to be able to check Florida State on the outside for 4 quarters and limit the big plays, limit the game-breaking plays? Are they going to be able to guard them simply, one-on-one? Are they going to be able to take that away from them in this matchup? I think, all else is going to be, it's going to be a tale of the tape. It's going to be a fight. I think, both teams are going to be able to rush the football. I think both teams are going to be able to throw the football with their talent at quarterback and their talent at wide receiver. Can LSU limit Florida State from making these big, chunk, effective plays that ultimately really kind of, create the outcome?
And I think that's where you should be the most nervous, right? If you see the way that Florida State is constructed, it feels like they want to throw the football a little bit, especially after, like I keep referencing the Oklahoma Bowl game, but it felt like they kind of unlocked something in Jordan Travis, and this is how we could run the offense, especially when they're returning so much of what they used last year on the offensive end. I would imagine, because when you look at, I'm looking at the 2 deep for LSU, like when you go through the defense back room, like what situation is LSU in where you see Ashton Stamps take a significant amount of snaps? Like that might not be the best thing in the world. You don't want to thrust him out there. Look, I know he's had a great camp, but I'm just trying to figure out who they're going to put out there when they go 4 wide, when you have Sage Brown listed at corner and at nickel. Like, does it just fall straight down to Deuce Chestnut? Like, I think there's a world where,
yes,
and I've been thinking this, and I don't know how much we should talk about it, but if you see Denver Harris out there, that means LSU is probably in a bad spot, right?
Or that means they're in a bad spot, and Denver Harris
This is their best player. That's what I'm saying.
Right. They're going to just, move their chips into the center of the table.
Yeah.
This is why we brought you here.
And say, all right, we've just been playing around. The only reason why we kept you on the team is because we have to have you
It's
out
for
here.
this game right now.
Right. Like, you got to go out there and you got to go get it right, man.
And I guess that means Denver wins the war.
I was about to say, and if he wins that, if he goes out there and wins that job that day, he's cornerback 1 for the rest of the season.
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
you
don't
can't
change that up after that. Like, so.
Really, I would say whoever goes out there,
whoever does the job
and takes the job is the odds-on favorite.
Who was it last year? The transfer for McNeese.
Garner.
No, Colby
Richardson, who just made the 53. Yeah, he made the 53 for the New York Giants.
Had a good camp.
Obviously,
Darren Evans was almost made the team too, if you remember him.
Yeah, obviously. Nichols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Terrible Mississippi State game.
But you had, Detroit Lions on Colby Richardson.
I was just looking at that, but it feels like he didn't play a very big factor. Like he started the Florida State game, then you saw him kind of become a rotational player, and that's what I'm thinking is going to. The cream will rise to the top, but it just is unfortunate that you go against a
premier receiver
a premier offensive threat where you're still unsettled at the one position it feels like you couldn't be settled on. And that's why I think the Mason Smith suspension is such a big deal, because you wanted to be able to get pressure on him and make it hell on Jordan Travis to be able to sit in the pocket, make throws, and go deep. Now, obviously, I know you have Harold Perkins who can do that, but it just felt like the defensive line was going to win a lot of those third downs for you, and now you're kind of left looking at what you saw last year with one special ingredient in Perk.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how this thing stacks up because of the Mason Smith effect on not being there for LSU and what happens to their defense in going forward. So it is going to be it's going to be. I think you could say that on both sides from what I just said.
Yes.
Right? Like, I definitely believe that LSU has an advantage as well offensively. But the key to this game could be the defense that stops the big players on the other side of the ball from making these big offensive plays. Right? And while I do believe that LSU has more firepower, they've got more threats, they've got more game breakers as far as options go. I mean, it takes you 5 guys to get to Chris Hilton. It takes you right now 4 guys to get to Aaron Anderson offensively. I mean, all of that stuff could really change Saturday night. I mean, same as what we say, the pecking order at defensive back. I mean, you look at this wide receiver rotation, and after Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, it feels, kind of like Kyron Lacy here, Aaron Anderson there, Chris Hilton over there. I mean, it's options. Guys that could step up. So,
I'm interested to see who they roll out there in the 3 deep at wide receiver too.
Yeah,
because I think there'd be packages for players. Obviously, when you have somebody like Aaron Anderson, I don't know if he's starting the slot. I think you'll see him roll. Yeah, I think you'll see him rotate in. But when it comes to, it feels like Brian Kelly's big on trust. You have Malik, and I think that's why that second spot is probably Kyron, and then you see Brian Thomas in the slot.
No, Brian Thomas plays outside.
But I've seen him. He played a lot inside last year, did he not?
No,
he only played outside.
No, he played outside and inside.
Yeah, but he could do both.
They cross-trained all of them, play outside and inside.
I just think he's hell on the inside, along with Chris Hilton.
But it'll be probably to start the game out. It'll be your skilled players will probably be Malik Neighbors, Kyron Lacy in the slot, Brian Thomas at the other receiver, Mason Taylor tight end, running back. My mind is telling me to go with Caleb Jackson as the starting running back.
No way.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
I think you'll see him work in the second half and get more touches than we all think.
Right. If it's not Caleb Jackson, I'll go Noah Cain to start the game.
And he brought in Diggs for a reason.
Yeah, but Noah Cain just.
It feels that I agree with you because I talked about this a little bit last night. But when you go the experience factor, it does feel like Noah Cain makes the most sense to put back there. He's played against Florida State, understands the stage.
Well, Logan Diggs has too.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they'll rotate those probably 3 with Trey Bradford in the mix, and after that, you still feel good about those 3. And we talked about this yesterday. There's going to be probably more emphasis on getting them touches, as opposed to LSU was playing behind a lot in that game last year, so you never really got to establish a run game outside of Jayden scrambling. So I think if they're able to kind of control the pace, the game could have gotten away from them last year at so many different points, and they kind of dragged themselves back into it. If LSU's able to maintain pace and kind of set the tempo and control the line of scrimmage, which I think is the biggest emphasis of the game, but it's just hard to talk about because it's not sexy. But I think LSU on the offensive line and defensive line, if they control the tempo, you'll see LSU be able to kind of do whatever they want offensively, starting with running the football.
Remember our friends over at Go Roof, Geaux, roof.com is where you find them online. And remember, you can trust and take comfort that Go Roof is a locally owned company. They're small enough to cater to their customers, but they're big enough to handle all of their needs. There is no customer that's too big or too small from our friends over at Go Roof, and you get a beautiful roof every single time that you do business with Go Roof. 225-927-8300. 225-927-8300 is the phone number, and you can dial them up today and get one of the trusted professionals on your roof. Remember, we tell you the weather, and I don't have to tell you, you've been a part of it. Everybody's been seeing it. The weather's been crazy over the last couple of days and weeks here with the rain coming through overnight, some of the storms and the wind and the trees coming down, hail damage in certain areas. If that has affected you and you believe that has affected your roof, let our friends from Go Roof jump up today and tell you whether or not you need a new roof. They will work directly with the insurance companies to make that a very seamless and no headaches as far as that process goes. So remember, you can find them online, Geaux roof.com, Geaux roof.com online, and 225-927-8300, 225-927-8300. Voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, when we come back here on the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B Builders. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks.
And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go-Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Is it time to wash your house or business? Call the pros at Hydro Wash today. Get them out with their low-pressure, soft-washing cleaning approach. From commercial buildings, rooftops, and residentials, Hydro Wash is ready to get your place shining. Find them on Facebook or call Curtis at 225-933-7068. Take it from me, Hydro Wash came by and made my house look like new. What was best was the professionalism. They picked up everything, made the clean, and then put everything back to where it belonged. Get in touch with Curtis today. Call him at 225-933-7068 or find Hydro Wash on Facebook.
All right, buddy. Make it a good shot. Oh, yeah. Sticking the roof in.
For a hole in your roof, for a whole new roof, go roof. Roof, roof, go roof.
Hey, Greg, roof up?
Roofs up. Roofs up. Roofs up.
Roofs up?
Roofs up.
Roofs up! Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
Our athletic collection poster there as we're partnered up. Remember, there is a link on all of our social media sites to get the game day poster. We'll have one each week here from our friend Brett Pitaro and the athletic collection. It'll have a Jordy Culotta Show link that you can find on our social media direct to it. That is this week's poster of Jayden Daniels and LSU taking on Florida State. That'll be obviously this Sunday night. All right, one of our great friends over at Cox Sports Television the last, 18 years?
20
years.
21 until they merged it, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You look younger than you are.
God bless
My
you.
bad.
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail. God bless you. Appreciate that.
All right, let's get out of here.
That's right. We're done.
That'll do it with our guy, Victor Howell. You know this face. You know the guy, Victor Howell, longtime media member here in our market. Done great work, whether it's local television on the news stations or it has been regional coverage on Cox Sports Television to even PA announcing inside of the Maravich Center for basketball, women's and men's. We've heard him do it all. And now doing some Saints stuff. Got a great Saints show that we're going to talk a little bit about some of the Saints movements that they've made over the last couple of days, but it's good to see you, man.
Hey, can I tell you congrats?
Thank you.
I like the new digs.
Thank you, man.
And the worldwide leader over here at
Absolutely.
Click Here. Boy, I got stories about them, too. Talk about how good it is. But no, I'm happy for it. It's a great look, and congratulations, especially kicking it off right before the season starts. Very exciting.
Thank you very
Good for
much. Amongst other things, Victor is the face of the team brand here locally that we've seen him doing commercials for. And I know you've worked with Click Here for a long time.
Worked with Click Here for over 15 years, and it's been great. I know I heard you talking in the first hour when you were talking about being over here now and what they do with all the SEO and SEM and social media, and that's a lot of I work with them a lot with my position and team. And boy, you want to talk about teaming up with the best of the best. I mean, they are, for people who don't know how, I mean, everybody knows how fast social and media and how everything's transitioning so quickly, right? It's so nice to be with somebody who can keep up with the pace, if not a step ahead. And they're great guys over here. Everybody over here has been fantastic.
It's great to hear, man. Obviously, if you want to learn that for yourself, go online at clickheredigital.com, and you can email me, Jordy, at clickheredigital.com. All right, Vic, this is a great week for our business, right? Start of football.
Christmas
football
season
camps.
in August, absolutely. Yeah.
I saw you at Brian Kelly earlier this week. What do you make of year 2 with Kelly?
You know, and I heard you guys talking about it at the end of the first hour, which I think was a great topic on the fact that Florida State hadn't played a game, LSU hadn't last year. They had one under their belt. You would almost wish that last year it would have flipped because of Brian Kelly, brand new roster, new city, new expectations. What was interesting is that a year ago at the press conference to start the season, you could tell he was excited to be here. And I know you were there too, but you could tell he was excited to be here, but everything was so new. He's still trying to figure out his players, quarterback situation, coaches, the fans, the expectations, everything going on. You were there with me Monday. Did he not come across as a guy that just has that, it looks like secret, solid confidence? I mean, you could tell it's much more settled. He's got a quarterback coming back. Yeah, he's got a couple of adjustments that have been made in position and some coaching responsibilities. But it came across like the way he was talking, we're good. Yeah. We're probably going to be better than what you think. Right. And as long as we don't make mistakes, we might be really good. Right. But I'm just not going to I'm not going to crack the whip and open the gate until we get to game day. Absolutely. So, you know how the usual, hey, we got a lot to learn. We've got position players. We've got to take care of the ball, and we still got a lot of guys. Okay. It's year 2. He's here. You could just tell he seemed to be very, very – that was my impression. Yeah. He came across as very confident, but it was a quiet, calm, confident. And it makes it very exciting to see what we're going to see on Sunday night.
I agree with you. I said Tuesday morning, you get the sense that Brian Kelly knows he's good. He just doesn't want to tell you.
He don't want to tell you.
He just shows you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just cut the thoroughbreds loose when it's game time. And there's certainly some responsibilities. We know about the running game and with Emery being out and who needs to step up. And will Malik be, the big go-to guy? We know how good he can be. Can he step up now with all the expectations? Daniels coming back, all of that. But yeah, I think he's ready to do the same thing.
I agree.
Let's get out of practice. Let's cut him loose and see what we can do.
Yeah, Jayden Daniels here in year 2. He mentions the consistency of the coaching and how important that is. You've seen and been a part of some training camps now and covering the Saints. How important is that continuity for Jayden Daniels going into year 2 of everybody being back around him?
Oh, absolutely. And it starts with his coaches, too. When they kept on changing different coordinators and making the moves and now having some consistency, I think is huge for him. I'm curious to see how people will attack him now that they've got a full year under their belt with him. LSU as a program is not used to a quarterback running as much as he did a year ago, right? I mean, we all kind of got taken back by, oh my gosh, look what he's going to do. And especially when you're just coming off the Burrow era and all the throwing and everything. Burrow ran, strategically and was good, but we knew what he could do reading defenses in his arm. I'm not saying Jayden Daniels is bad at all. He's outstanding with running. In the SEC, it worries me just a little bit because of now that they've seen him, the way they're going, people are going to try to attack him differently, and you don't need him to go down. But he has shown his calmness and his ability to read and use his legs to his advantage. And I think for him, and he even talked about it, I guess, Monday or Tuesday when he talked to the media, talked about how it settled him down a lot more. I know Brian Kelly talked about last year they want him to focus now, like every pass, 4th down, be strategic, be good. It was 1st and 10, let's just let it rip. And he talked about having guys come back, working together over the summer, the continuity in the offense, coming back now after a full year and having so many familiar faces, and the offensive line, putting all of that together. What he showed with that composure in the Alabama game, latter part of the year from when we first started the season, and now coming back to start this with all that, I think it can only be a huge benefit. I can't wait to see how it pays off on the field.
Getting down to Emery, more surprised that Will Lutz was traded or Bradley Roby was cut?
I would probably Roby being cut. I'm not surprised that Lutz was traded because they went with Groupie, and a lot of people may not have known it, but the kicking battle was one that a lot of people were watching. Yeah. even in OTAs in summer and then in the official camp, I'm not sure that Lutz lost it as opposed to Groupie won it. Now, if you listen to Lutz's agent, he ripped the Saints. He's like, there's no way they kept the best player. The best player is now gone, and he's on his way to Denver. And I'm not shocked that Sean Payton went and picked him up in a trade. But Groupie seemed to have earned it. For me, for Dennis Allen, Jordy, last year the Saints went 2-3 in games that were 3 points or less. Okay, they started the season with a 27-26 win in Atlanta. For me, for Dennis Allen, I only hope that against Tennessee, it's not a 2-point game and you need Groupie to kick it. Mm-hmm. Because if he makes it, right, hey, you made the great call, great job, or you kept the right guy.
Oh, Lord.
You miss it, and boy, he's going to get lit up, because you took a guy who has been your guy. Now, look, last year, Lutz was 74%. I mean, that's nice. It wasn't great, but you keep a young guy like this and a punter, too.
Yes.
They get rid of guys. Two of the biggest stories was the fact that you completely changed your special teams with your kicker and your punter. So that's a lot on Dennis Allen. Let's just hope that he proves him right. But I'd like to see a 4-point game or a 6-point win, something comfortable, 8 points where you don't have to put that kind of pressure on you in week one.
And you get Will Lutz in that thin air too. It's going to be a revival for him.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and Sean Payton had confidence in him obviously, and he was good, consistent for a while. But look, in that position, it wasn't. People may wonder, was it a salary move? It was like $1 million. It wasn't a ton of money. It's not like they made a drastic move for the rosters. I think Groupie just went out and won it. They didn't go. They went with a younger guy that they feel confident in him. You have him for several years. It's not like they had to get rid of Lutz. They just went with the guy that I think went out there and got the job done.
Yeah.
So I hope we can do it when the season starts.
Only 2 undrafted free agents made the Saints roster, and one of them, and both of them were the specialists. Blake Groupie, and you mentioned Lou Hedley, the punter, who is the 30-year-old.
Yeah, and you got rid of Gillikin.
Yeah, they got rid of Gillikin.
As we know with the Saints, especially when they're playing in the Dome, how much special teams can switch a field. And, for all the years that Morstead was there, and we used to have so much fun on our shows talking about how Morstead got dressed for nothing because he sat on the side. They never needed him, right? I mean, one of our reporters would go to him afterwards just for fun, just to say, hey, I talked to you, you were here. Just ask you what it was like sitting there watching the game from your point of view. But, when you need him, he could boom it down there, coffin corner and get it out there. We know what the special teams can do to change field position. When you're in the Dome, if you can pin somebody back and get the crowd behind you, we know what that means. So hopefully he'll be able to do his job on the punting game as well.
Derek Carr looked like a really good fit in preseason. Do you imagine that he's going to be as good of a fit as he was early on?
Scott Shanley, former Saint linebacker who shows with me, had been saying it for a long time that he thought if Carr were to move, he thought it would be a good fit. Carr never was given a fair opportunity. He never had a defense that could support him. I think he looks very good in the offense. I think it was very interesting to me that he and Michael Thomas hit it off so early, because Michael Thomas is a guy, I wrote it down so I make sure I had all the numbers right. He has missed, he's played in 3 of the last 34 games. Okay, now remember, he signed a long-term contract. He got into a fight.
Yeah.
People were debating on whether who won that fight. Heroes on the defensive side. CJ kind of took it to him, right? And I don't know if that hurt his ego or what. But all of a sudden, Michael Thomas has a toe. He's got an ankle. Now, I know he just came out, I think, yesterday on an interview, and he said, my body rejected all the artificial parts, and, it didn't take well and all that. Hey, look, whatever it is, you got a $98 million contract. You were Mr. Everything, and then you're a no-show. And then you didn't do anything. So you've got a rookie in Olave last year who showed what he can do. If you bring Thomas back, and he's got confidence back. Peyton's gone. That feud that they had when he tried to show him up and Peyton benched him, and that hurt his ego as well. If he can come back and perform even half to 3/4 of what he was as he makes a return with a quarterback like Carr and Olave on the other side and the speed of Rashid Shaheed, if he can stay healthy, knock on wood, boy, you've got some nice weapons for Carr, at the quarterback position, which will only make him more comfortable and look better. And then hope the defense can give him a little support, that he got none in Vegas.
Victor Howell, who is, him, man, the familiar face of Victor Howell that we've seen all over our television airwaves.
It's the face for radio. I come to talk to a radio guy. Right. Haven't seen him in a while. I come talk to him. He puts me on the street. Puts me on the stream.
Pull the hat down.
Gracious me.
It's great to see you, as always.
Good to see you, too.
Thank you for everything. Great mentor, great friend. And somebody, hopefully, that we will be doing some work here with.
Would love that. We'll keep it under wraps and see what happens, but we'd love to do it. Yeah,
absolutely. In the future, somebody who is embracing the digital space, Victor Howell, and you'll be seeing a lot more of him right here on the Jordy Culotta Show as we talk weekly about what's going on around South Louisiana sports, whether it's New Orleans Saints or LSU, as the Tigers and Noles kick it off this Sunday. When we come back, we'll talk to Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, as he'll be in studio with us. We'll talk to Chris about the LSU Florida State matchup. Tonight's the debut of the Brian Kelly radio show over at TJ Ribs, the second season of it. We'll talk to Blair about what to expect from the coach coming up this season. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Hughes Mechanical Contractors. Hughes Mechanical AC can help you out today. The heat's still down here in South Louisiana, all over our region. If you need help with your air conditioning and it can't keep up, get in touch with our friends and the pros over at Hughes Mechanical Contractors. Number is 225-658-2147. That's residential or commercial services that they can help you with today. Look, if your AC's having a tough time keeping up in the summer heat and you need somebody to get out, check it out today. You can get in touch with our friends over at Hughes Mechanical. Tell Travis Hughes and the great team over there that you heard it on the Jordy Culotta Show. 225-658-2147 is the phone number. They're headquartered over in Zachary, but they service all of South Louisiana, all the way to the North Shore, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, everywhere in between. Online, HughesMechanical.net, HughesMechanical.net. From one legend to another, we go from Victor Howell to Chris Blair next here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll be right back here, built by R&B Builders.
Malik Neighbors, a wide receiver.
Favorite pregame meal?
Popeyes.
What would winning a national championship mean to you?
It would mean a lot to me because, we've seen a lot of the greats come through here, won their national championship, got, remembered for life.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Probably fly. That or telekinesis.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Do it wrong, do it long. Do it right, do it light.
Kyra Lacey, wide receiver, number 2.
Do you have any nicknames?
K2.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Stay humble.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Fly. I be flying in my dreams.
What's been the highlight of your partnership with us?
The bike giveaway was one of the best things. I was pretty excited about that one. Texas A&M, I just got a point to prove because last year I dropped 2 balls I should have caught. I'm coming for them for real.
That's it. Thank you, man.
My name is Harold Perkins, and I play linebacker.
What's your favorite pre-game meal or snack?
Pasta with a little steak, something that's not too heavy.
Any superstitions or pre-game rituals?
I pray a lot. Just be me and God before the game. Perky worky. I like when they call me the percolator. I like that.
If anyone gets in a wreck, who should they call?
Gore.
Where were you born at, Greg?
Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But I claim 504 food because I was raised there my whole life. Favorite type of food is spaghetti. But you need to try spaghetti with some corn on the side. Funniest person, I'd probably get Kyron Lacey. He be having me joked out every time I talk to him.
Who's the most athletic?
Besides myself, Perk or Malik. Future self, just take one day at a time, one step at a time. If you're doing something, just be where your feet are. Make sure you give 100% effort.
What is something on your bucket list?
Win a Super Bowl. That's definitely on my bucket list.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Time traveling.
Who's the fastest on the team?
Like in a short span, I would say quick trigger, I'm taking Perk. One thing most people don't know about me, probably that I moved 12 times growing up, 12 different states.
Who's the most savage on the team?
Mason Smith. Mason Smith, definitely.
And who gets it done?
Gordon.
Thank you, man. That's great.
Emery Jones, right tackle.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Got it from my mom, and she just told me, always keep your head on the swivel.
Favorite subject?
Math, easy. I kind of keep it light. Give me some type of red beans or something like that. Throw a little cornbread on the side.
Light with red beans.
Yeah, just a little bit. I am superstitious. I got some PSDs that's purple and yellow and white. I wear them every game. I feel like they my lucky draws, and you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep doing it.
All right, welcome back here. Jordy Culotta Show. As always, we are built by R&B Builders, live from the campus of Click Here Digital on this Thursday morning. Remember, you can give us a like, share, comment if you don't mind. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. This Sunday, LSU is going to be taking on Florida State. There are going to be many ways to watch, listen, and to take this game in. I suggest you do it through the LSU Sports Radio Network, whether you're listening through the radio airwaves. I like to watch the behind-the-scenes YouTube cut. It is a fantastic way to go about watching the game. Many of you fell in love with this during baseball season. This is something that Chris Blair does throughout. You don't do it in basketball, do you?
No, they don't give us enough room.
Yeah, right. 'Cause I would love to see the breaks with Brady.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Because I know that radio lingo, he can't keep it up for the entire 2 hours. I know that he's dropping some F-bombs somewhere.
We would probably have more viewers in commercial break than we would for the game.
Absolutely.
But they give us less and less room every year. Like we're almost shoulder to shoulder. And so, it does take a little bit of room to put the computer and camera, and so unable to do it.
But a tradition that you can find in football and baseball, nonetheless.
Yeah.
So it comes back to you on Sunday night. My man looking dapper today.
Yeah,
freshly
man.
dressed. I don't know if it's the start of the season, Brian Kelly's radio show tonight, game week, whatever it is.
The birthday?
Yeah, it's all of the above.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. All of the above.
You got a new clothing partner.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Carriages. It's funny is I was thinking about it last night and today. I mean, we went over there, you and I, and visited with Will and the staff. And, I had been over there a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But it's like when you go over there, you get the feeling you're going to a family's, like, your family gathering.
Yeah.
Like you go in, you may not have seen cousin, Joe in 3, 4, 5 years, but it's just like, hey, man, what's happening? And
a lot of locals.
Yeah, and it's just laid back, and they've got just the the coolest stuff. And I thought, this would be just great. And so they're the best. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking to get ready for this season or anytime, or looking for a gift, I mean, carriages, go see them. I mean, you definitely come out looking bad. I mean, even an ugly guy like me, like they can
You look right at me.
They can. No, I'm saying I said an ugly guy like me.
Lloyd.
I did not mean that. I was just trying to include you in on the conversation.
I appreciate it. This is when I should be perking
You're
up.
over there in the corner, and it makes me nervous. But so anyway, yeah, shout out to Will and the guys at Carriages.
Jefferson Shopping Center, Jefferson Highway Shopping Center is where you can find them. Been around forever, since the early 80s. Carriages. They have the alternate LSU logos, which I love. They have the tiger, which is on Chris's chest right now, but they also have the state with the tiger head, which to me is I think that's the best LSU logo. It's the one on the side of the helmet.
And they brought back the LSU with the script tigers underneath as well.
Yes.
Another good throwback.
Yeah, we were
logo.
talking about that the other day. That reminds us of kind of the 80s.
It is.
When I was growing up in Kentucky, those Dale Brown teams and Shaquille, and that's how my first exposure, and I've told this story before, that's my first exposure to LSU is because, and I even told Coach Brown this a couple of years ago, my mom could not stand Dale Brown because he was, she had Joby Hall was
That's
the
right.
coach.
Well, everybody from Kentucky.
And later Eddie Sutton. And for the most part, those guys just kind of sat. They were the ultimate CEOs. Like you didn't see them do a whole lot of ranting and raving during the game. And of course, Dale Brown was one of those that did it. My mom, man, she would just get so mad. So when I saw Coach Brown, and he asked me about my Kentucky background, I told him, and I said, by the way, my mom did not like you at all. He goes, well, I even to this day when he goes into airports, there are Kentucky fans that say, I respect you,
but I hate you.
And I like you now, but I hated you.
But
that logo that they brought back is the one that I remember, it being associated with LSU. It's the LSU and then kind of the Tigers. Yeah.
I think the Chris Jackson, Shaquille O'Neal, kind of like Curly Hallman era for the football reference. All right, speaking of football reference, we're here, man.
It's it.
So tonight, season 2, debut show in season 2 of Brian Kelly. TJ Ribbs is the backdrop again here for another season of LSU Sports Radio Network. And Coach Kelly taking the stage at 7 o'clock. This will be a weekly deal that happens and starts tonight. I know working with Coach Kelly last year had to be a joy of just kind of listening to him talk football, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had meetings prior to the season, and that is it's the coach's show. I mean, it's called the Brian Kelly Show. It's not the Chris Blair Show. So I typically like to find out how do they like to do it? What do they want to do? And the message was clear for 48 minutes, which is the actual time we're talking. We want to talk football. And I'm like, great.
What a concept.
Because there have been times where that's not been what we've talked about. So
let's get back to football.
Best reality show you could ever watch.
So anyway, it was great.
Get back to football.
And then as it turned out, and I think a lot of people know this now, Coach Kelly's a funny guy, and he's got a great sense of humor. It's a bit dry.
Timing.
And his timing is impeccable.
It's impeccable.
So, he's very quick and quick-witted, and so it is fun. And I thought, again, I have to imagine, from what I understand, it was a lot different formatted show from what he had at Notre Dame. Just the atmosphere alone. I mean, there's people hanging from the rafters in there at TJ Ribs.
Y'all take live questions?
Well, let's say, what if we didn't?
But at the end of the day, I think by week 4 or 5, he realized that, and he's a super smart guy, so of course he realized those people are there because they love LSU, and right now he is the head and face and persona of their program, and even in year 1. Vis-a-vis, they love him, and he got more comfortable with it. We had more fun, and so I'm looking forward to it tonight. And I think people, coaches show sometimes you have the coach on, sometimes you have 2 or 3 players on, sometimes you'll have this person on. I mean, it truly is one of those shows that I thank Coach Kelly for. He's there for 48 minutes, and he's talking about the team. So tonight, being the season premiere, we'll kind of talk position groups early on in the show, and maybe get a clear indication of a 2 deep or some semblance of a 2 deep, because he's pretty clear on who he thinks will play certain positions. So we'll dig into that, and then we'll probably take 2 segments where we talk solely about what do you see from Florida State and what do they bring to the table. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
What's your preparation like for game week, and specifically game 1? Because, you have all summer to prepare for this one, right?
Yeah. Week 1 is, you may have, again, don't get me wrong, I am not in a coal mine, 300 feet under the ground where I could be. So I'm not saying this is a tough job. But this week is what we refer to as Hell Week, because we have to build everything that you hear on the air.
Yeah.
And then once we get that built, that's kind of the template for the rest of the season. So, that's kind of what week 1 is like. And now on top of that, there's, studying Florida State, watching film, getting a 2 deep chart put together based on the 2 deep, because they hand out a 2 deep on Monday. But then inevitably I call one of my colleagues who's the voice of the Seminoles, and he goes, yeah, this guy, this guy may, or, so you have to kind of do a little detective work to make sure when you get there on Sunday and they go, oh, yeah, this guy who's starting left tackle, he's scratched, and this starting corner's scratched. So there's a little bit of detective work that's done. But once we get week 1 in, and literally once I get to Camping World Stadium and we go on the air, Hunt, Marlon, and Brandon will get things started at 4:30 Central. So I go into the booth around 6 for a 6:30 kickoff. Once I get to that 6 o'clock, man,
it's on.
Hayes in the barn. We go early because we ride with the team, and it's the worst 2 hours for me. Because if it were up to me, if kickoff is 6:38 Central Time, I'd like to walk in the booth at 6:35, sit down and do it. Because there's that anxiety and nervousness, and you got 2 hours to walk around the stadium thinking, all right, did I get all those commercials
you start
in?
looking at your notes again, you're like, maybe I should do this.
It's not even really the game. It's the
prep.
Does Hunt, Marlon, Brandon, they got everything they need? Or is it? And I'd much rather just walk in and go, let's do it.
Right.
But that's not the way it works.
From a preparation standpoint, when you start digging into the concept of it, how much do you count on your team to talk football? What's that like in the relationship of a radio broadcast? Because you're a play-by-play. So I think everybody assumes that you just know everything about all sports, right?
Yeah, I think they do, and that's why they're disappointed.
But it comes with that job, right?
That's why they're disappointed when they turn it on and they go, "Chris don't know anything." No,
dumbass.
I've always said my job, the way I look at it, and again, this is by watching. This is not some epiphany I had or that I've got all the answers. I just watch and listen to a lot of play-by-play announcers, and always have, and still do. And I'm a fan of the craft of, I'll hear somebody, I was listening during the College World Series in Omaha, and I was listening to one of the other teams in the hotel as I was, seeing where that game was. And, there's things you pick up and go, oh, I haven't thought about doing it that way. So for me, my job is to try to tell the listener the who, what, when, where, the dragnet approach. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why I rely on Doug and Gordy to give us the why, because they played at LSU. They played college football. I didn't. So for me to tell you why this play worked, I'd be lying. I mean, I'd be making it up or repeating what I heard Doug or Gordy say. So I don't try to pretend to be some great football tactician. I know enough to be dangerous and to be in the room and have the conversation, but that's not really where I see my job. My job is to tell you what the down and distance is, what direction the guy's running in, who's running with it, where did they start, where do they get to, and what was the end result. And then I'm supposed to shut up and them tell you that they did it because they had one over the top and that exposed this side of the field. That's the stuff that they know much better than I do. I'm just kind of the guy that again tells you the who, what, when, where. So yeah, if you are under the impression I am a sports savant, then I played in sports, but as far as understanding the intricacies of what these coaches are drawing up, I don't even pretend to do that.
It doesn't take a college football fanatic or a college sports fanatic to figure out that football is a bigger piece of the puzzle than the rest of the sports, right? I mean, it's a monster. Is it a bigger production for you guys?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is it's a 5 or 6 hour long ordeal, and that's not even the longest. I mean, I've got a buddy of mine who runs the Nebraska Sports Network. They do 10 hours. A game day, 10 hours of programming on the network, which I don't know. I shouldn't have said that out loud because somebody in my building's going to say, hey, let's go.
Yeah, they have that covered.
The Nebraska model. Yeah, Blair was promoting it this morning, in fact.
I have no desire.
The volleyball, the football field.
No desire.
I heard him on Culotta show. He's in.
So, but it is a bigger production. I mean, for basketball, John and I start 30 minutes till tip. I mean, and then we go to tip, and then we're out. He says it's the longest post-game show in broadcast history, but we're literally done in 30 to 40 minutes after the game. Yeah. So football is 90 minutes till kickoff, 90 minutes till kickoff, then 30 minutes till kickoff. So you got 2 hours of pregame where there's no game happening, and then usually 45 minutes to an hour postgame. So that's how you end up with a 5+ hour broadcast. And again, there's more people involved. The team's bigger. There's more responsibilities that have to be covered, and it's a monster compared to basketball, women's basketball, softball, and baseball, all of which we produce.
When's the last time you looked at a name, a venue, a player, and thought, I have no idea what I'm looking at? I don't know how to say this word.
Have you heard Jordy's story about why he's asking this question?
I don't know that I know this.
I mean, I've got many of them.
You mean as far as like getting there and taking the roster?
I know your preparation is thorough, but like has
there's been times.
Has anybody ever like gotten to a player where you're like,
88?
What am I looking at?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, again, football rarely happens because, again, you're talking, for the most part, 22 players per team, couple of 3 deeps, and you've got one game that week, and you got plenty of ways to reach out to people, whether it's Michael Bonnet or even the SID from the other team, and go, hey, I need help with
your defensive end.
Yeah. Now, it happens a lot in basketball. It happens a lot in baseball, and that's simply because you play on a Tuesday night, or say you travel to Lexington, play Kentucky on a Tuesday night, you fly back Tuesday night, Wednesday you're kind of walking zombie, and then Thursday you start gathering stuff for your team, and then suddenly you get a roster on Friday. The team that you're playing's en route either by bus or by plane. You probably can't check with anybody until right before tip-off, and that gets a little nerve-wracking because I don't know if you've ever tried to learn phonetically a name that it takes a little while. Sure. Like you got to write it out and then start like repeating it so that when you see it. But that usually happens with player rosters, not so much venues. Although it's funny you bring this up. It's very hard to say Texas's home stadium. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
Is it DK Royal?
Yeah, DK Royal. What is it Texas? There's 3 or 4 like official names in it, and it's. I remember when we played there in 19, it was like, I'm just going to pick like one of the names people call it.
Darrell K. Royal, Texas Memorial Stadium.
Boom.
Have a field day with that.
Yeah. I think I said Royal Stadium most of the night because I was
that's like a word warm up.
Yeah. So that's yeah, it really is. That's one of those venues that catches it. I remember when we played in the NCAA tournament in Milwaukee. What is it, Fiserv Arena? Is that the one in Milwaukee? Is it Fiserv?
I have no.
And I remember asking somebody like, "Is this how you pronounce it?" Because, but yeah, you just have to ask. You got to be willing to ask.
Sure.
And
well, I mean, it beats
and plus it helps.
The alternative, right?
In baseball, I got Bill Franquez, who is enunciation king, and my man is on the ground immediately. From his PA background, he's on the ground immediately, even when we're on the road, to figure out how to pronounce a name. So once Bill's in the building, I just go, "Hey, Bill, number 22." Got
Take a copy of that roster.
And then if Bill's wrong, I don't care because Bill's whatever Bill
I'll
says.
ride with Bill.
Because my guess is even the kids' parents will be like, "Well, if Bill Franquez calls it that, then
I guess we're going to change the kid's name."
Yeah, voice of God.
We used to have a lot of fun with Gavin Dugas because we got tweets and or zeets. What do we call them now with that? I don't even know.
X's.
From people that say, "Hey, it's Dugas." By the way, I know you're not from Louisiana. It's Dugas. Or they would tweet at us and say, "Hey, man, down here it's pronounced Dugas. You don't pronounce the S." And I love all these guys, but you go to these players and you go, "Hey, just by the way, man, hey Gavin, is it Dugas or Dugas?" And most every time they look at us and go, "Either way, man, it don't matter."
Yeah.
I'm like,
No,
it does matter. Because Grandma just sent me a zeet and said I'm pronouncing it wrong. And I'm not picking on Gavin. Gavin's a great dude.
Yeah, that's a great example.
But yeah, they usually go, whatever you want to say, sir. I'm like, no, I need to know what Mama says. Because whatever Mama calls you is what I'm going to call you.
She's the one that emails me.
Yeah, right.
Happy birthday, man.
Hey, man, thanks.
Any plans besides the Brian Kelly show?
We got a hot date tonight.
You know, it's fun this morning. I'm a little late. Everything's thrown off today, but that's okay. The kids and my wife wanted to have, so they just wanted to have something because we're going to try to get lunch today. It's all dependent on Dad's schedule and how far ahead he gets ready for tonight's show. But I got to say it. I mean, they put up with a lot. I'm gone a lot, and maybe that's not a bad thing for them. They just act like it is. But they are very understanding that this, I think, is the third birthday since I've been at LSU, and there's previous ones at Georgia Southern where, I'm spending it with the coach and fans, which is great. Again, could be a lot worse, but thanks for that. I feel like I'm a year older this morning.
Voice of the Tigers,
working a lot,
and now a part and a partner with Carriage's Clothing. Over in Jefferson Highway Shopping Center that you can find. Carriage's ClothierBR.net online. You can find them all over Facebook. And they've got the alternate Tiger logo that Chris will be rocking every game day. He'll be bringing it in every Thursday. He'll be tweeting, zeeting out social media, out his game day fit each week. And you'll have a chance to see what he's wearing. And it'll all be compliments of our friends over at Carriage's. So check that out if you want to go stop and pick up.
And I appreciate you, by the way, that you and Will got together and said, "Hey, look, Chris is coming on our show every Thursday. Could you please fix the guy up a little bit?" I mean, can you get him
wear
to
the same thing every day?
Can you get him to my standard, please? So thank you for taking pity on me.
Like, share, comment. Remember, coming up Saturday night or Sunday night this week, you've got a chance to go behind the scenes and watch it with the LSU Sports Radio Network. Right, you're watching that on YouTube. If you're not, dial them in on your network wherever you're listening from around the state. You can catch up with the Tigers with Doug Morrow, Gordy Rush, and of course the voice Chris Blair. Every Thursday you see him here. Compliments of Carriages. Have a great weekend. Great call. Happy birthday.
All right, guys. Go Tigers.
We'll be back tomorrow morning and close out game week. Get you set for LSU Florida State right here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Make sure and hit like, share, comment, subscribe if you have not done so. We appreciate you here on this Thursday. Have a great day.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time. It's the hottest show around, we ain't gotta flex. Call up G, we get it done, we earning our respect. Tell recruits to let us in, where they going next? Throw up the L's, now we lit, band playing Nick. From the boot to the east to the west coast. No matter where we at, we live, mic'd up for show. Open